Yes, actually the first thing that I saw value in the Computer Society was the fact that it published standards for software engineering. I started out in software, well, actually I started programming in '68, but I started working in the software field before we ever heard of software engineers, before the IEEE had created that designation, which I think has been very useful for a lot of professionals in my area. But anyway, back in the 1970s, we didn't have standards for software, for doing software development projects, and I was responsible for projects for the intelligence community. And since there were several different projects that I was responsible for, I was really concerned about them doing things in a consistent way so I didn't have to be terribly hands-on and they could be a little more self-sufficient. Since there weren't any software engineering standards, I went to IEEE's hardware standards and looked at, for example, how do you do V&V for hardware? And then I would translate those for a software project. So in many ways, I would go back to the hardware community and figure out how do we bring that forward for software. I was delighted when in the 80s, the Computer Society decided that software standards were going to become a priority. By then, instead of just directing software projects at a variety of different companies, I used to get recruited to go from one company to another because I made things work, and if something was broken in a computer software company, then I'd get recruited to go direct that. Anyway, I realized that I was doing the same thing over and over again. And the fact that IEEE actually had standards that could help the software development process was a wonderful thing. So first I just took advantage of it, using the standards as an outside authority to bring in that was an objective source rather than having the people on software projects fighting with each other about how things should be done. Then, having used up all the standards that were available, I became interested in what new things were going to be happening. So I signed up for a ballot group. Well, little did I know how much I was going to get involved after that. Well, my latest experience in leading a standards development group was with the Software Configuration Management Standard. And to me, it's really important to have international participation in standards development. So the first problem is not just accepting the people who've already registered with the IEEE Computer Society to say that they're interested and they'd like to participate, but going out and recruiting people. So I wanted to make sure that I got Europe, that I got South America, and then I got Asia. So then once you have those people signed up to do a standard, you face all kinds of new problems. How do you enable collaboration? How do you get them to meetings at the same time when they're at various points around the clock? So you got to solve those things. Fortunately, the IEEE Computer Society does provide some support for that. Thank the Lord. So what we would do was compromise. My guy in Australia was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to attend our meetings, and then of course the guy in South Africa was coming in at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So you're dealing with people that are coming from all these different times and all these different perspectives. But it's a very useful thing. It takes a long time to get to consensus on fine points, but the really good thing about this was when you have real practitioners, people who've done this, they're professionals, you bring them together in a group and they're like, aha, yes, somebody else understands. And so from developing a technical content perspective, that part's pretty easy after you get them together. What we really need is practitioners, people who are doing this and can reflect the real world. We want standards that are not just for compliance. We want standards that help people get together on, okay, what are the things that really, really work, that we know work because this is how we do it.